What is good, y'all? We about to talk about the astral realm and some history. Let's get into it. So you guys already know this one is about Maldek, and now me astral traveling to Maldek was way deeper than I thought. I'm about to get into that in 1 second, but what is Maldek in the first place? It is a planet in our solar system which was destroyed, and it's essentially the asteroid belt now. And so what happened before was I kept being told about Maldek. Like I honestly kept thinking about this planet called Maldek, and then the astral belt would keep coming up in my head, and then one day I saw the word Maldek somewhere, and I was like, all right, let's get into it. And then my homeboy Genie, shout out to my dog, he was also getting into this as well, and he's learning about the outer perspective of Maldek and the different beings that are involved with it, which is the Anunnaki and some more, and it's going to be amazing. You guys are going to hear all about that from him as well. This planet, which actually scientists call Phaeton or Ceres, it is a planet that was destroyed in some way in their eyes, in the scientific mind. Now, I wanted to learn more about this history. So what I did was I decided to astral project there. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell you what I saw and what was happening there first, and then I'm going to get into what I learned about it from other sources, meaning people that dive deep into the Akashic records and get deep insight about it. So this is what happened. I said, okay, I'm going to go to Maldek tonight. And this is what my travel looked like. We were on some sort of planet, and it looked like we were in North Florida. Like there was the palm trees, but there was a lot of like swamp. But the energy was like we're on similar to like a vacation. We're here to get away from all troubles and all struggles. But struggles kept coming up in ways that we didn't agree to. Like for the first night, all our stuff was stolen. Like it was gone. And we were like, how are we going to survive? Like there was a trauma response. Like I've experienced this before. And it was like, our stuff is gone. But you know, with me, it was like, I handle it differently than the other people did. I was like, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. The others were like freaking out. They're like, how are we going to survive? What are we going to do? And it was all of that. And I was like, whoa, chill out. Like, I know this is rough, but we could do this. So I just started noticing the people around me were reacting survival mode. So then I woke up, I was like, what was that? That was interesting. So then the next night I was like, okay, let's go back, right? Let's go to Maldek again. And I wanted more blunt, like me, I thought I was going to go there and be able to observe and look at the planet and see what's going on and say, okay, bye, right? But it didn't happen like that. This is what I mean by astral travels never happen like how you think. So I go to the planet again, but it's weird because I'm going to tell you guys. So there was this, like, imagine a 5 meter, actually a 6 meter cliff, and it goes in like a roundabout like this, and the cliff is like on an angle like that, and you could climb it, and at the bottom there's like this water, and it looks like greenish. It's almost like you know something is in there and that it's dangerous, but there's people standing on like the waterfall type of cliff. It's like water, like when it goes around like this, and then on this end there's a waterfall and there's all these trees. It's like we're in the jungle, but it's like a little lagoon. And the people are standing up above on the cliff too. And what you do is you walk and you could climb on it and then jump into the water. But you're not supposed to, because everybody's like, there's something in there, which you could die from. People have died from in there. And so what I did was I went over and I was like, oh, I'm going to climb. But nobody really told me. It was like this energy of like, don't do it. But I was like, oh, like we're here to have fun and there's no danger. Like there's no danger here. We're safe. So after that, I started climbing and then I got trapped. I couldn't go back or else I was going to fall, and I couldn't go forward because there was no more rocks to hold on to. So I was hanging onto this ledge stuck, and people were like, jump into the water. And I was like, hell no. And remember, this is real. Like this feels just as real as this. And I was like, hell no. And there was someone else that was trapped further along in the cliff. Like they tried to climb forward and they got trapped even more than me. And they jumped into the water and they swam away. I'm not sure if they got away or not. but they swam in the water. And I was like, nope, we're not doing that. Because this water was like it was like it went so far down. It was like a cave system. Like it went down, but you couldn't see what was in there. And you just knew it was dark. It wasn't safe. The people were laughing at me. They were laughing. And I was like, what are y'all laughing at? Help me, yo. And they were laughing. And then they were like taking pictures. Like the people that were at the top were like taking pictures down at me like this. And I was so scared. I was like, yo, how am I going to, like, no one's going to help me, but I got to help myself. And so that's the one thing I noticed is everybody was like every man for themselves, and they would laugh at you because they're like, it ain't me, right? And so I'm hanging on. And then after, I remember people were like pretending to help me, and they thought it was funny. And then after, some guy came around, he's like, yo, we could try our new drug on him. And it was like cocaine or like heroin or something. And they literally injected it in me from the cliff. And then I got high, and it was really wild. Everything was really bright, and I was like this. And I was scared even more I was going to fall. So it was like deeper fear. And I was like, whoa. And then when I got sober up after like a minute, I was like, okay, good, we're back. Phew. And they were laughing. And then I was pissed. I was like, I don't know how to get back. I realized it was every man for himself. And so then after, one person was like, okay, guys, enough fun. Actually help him up. So then they put like a rope down and helped me up, and I was so mad at everybody. I was like, what the fuck is wrong with you guys? Like, I could have died, right? And they were like, it's funny. You didn't see the rock. That rock, everybody knows you're not supposed to pass by that rock. And I did remember when I was climbing, there was this big rock, and it was like a rock that was like, don't pass this point. And it's as you're climbing, and it's in the water. And so they were like, everybody knows that rock. But the thing is, it's like they wanted to allow people to do it for fun. And so after that, I went back to the hotel room, which was really nice. And I was like, what the hell is wrong with this place? Like, it was supposed to be safe. It was supposed to be like a place where you could heal, and it's not. So those 2 nights I went, that's when it clicked, and I was like, oh, I actually was there. And then there were some problems with people battling each other, and just so much conflict. I notice every time you go there, there's a trauma response. It's like something happens that's also linked to your past lives, what you experienced. And it's like overall, you're going to experience some sort of trauma or fear. And when I was there, I was like, yo, others would react crazily to this. But luckily, I've been training for this. Literally, like in my past lives and in this lifetime, I was like, whatever I face, I'm gonna take it on, right? I looked into Maldek, and what they talk about, it's of course a very Earth-like planet, and I already felt the Earth-likeness about it. It's super Earth-like, but it's giant, it's very big. And so after I looked it up, and they were saying it's a big planet, it was like the first attempt at Earth, and the beings there were very dragon like, very draconian like. And they also had different beings there, like redskin beings, which I remember. And I remember they had different areas. They had a vacation spot. They had business area, like business and mining. And then they also had an experimental area and a capital. Essentially, Maldek was meant to be where souls that are very traumatized and very, like they went through really scarring, horrific things. And they're very sensitive souls. So they went through these things and needed somewhere to take a break and get away from like all of that existence. So Maldek was a planet where Spirit said you could come here and you'll be safe. So a lot of these beings that were from Orion, they're dragon-blooded beings and draconian beings. So they're very humanoid looking. I'll put a picture again. But it's the dragons that were guiding them, because that's their DNA matrix, right? So they're attached to these beings. They're like, okay, we're gonna guide them. And so they all got sent to Maldek. And it was good for a while until the dragons realized, yo, we have to actually have hardship and challenge, or else these people aren't going to evolve. No matter what, the planet was headed to destruction, no matter what was going to happen. So it was either it was going to get destroyed on its own later, or they could introduce hardship now and slowly guide them so then they could come out the other end, quote unquote. So they decided, let's do it earlier, of course, right, to save the planet. Now remember, in order to evolve as a soul and as a being, you need hardship and challenge in order to help you get there. So these beings on Maldek were very 3D, And it's like their higher selves knew this too, but again, they're disconnected because they're more 3D. So they didn't perceive it well. They're trying to run away from all their traumas and their fears and stuff. So as soon as beings were allowed to experience, the higher beings, which were the dragons in charge, allowed for challenge and hardship to be experienced, which means souls that were more heavier, you know what I'm saying? They were allowed to incarnate there as well to start sparking some challenge to help the souls grow. But remember, these beings it's almost like the planet's very diverse, but they're very homogeneous, if that's the word, in the way that they think and operate. It's like they're very traumatized souls. So as soon as they feel safe somewhere, and they were already not feeling safe, but they were healing to feel safe, and they thought they could feel safe on this planet, and then it switched and the rules switched, they felt like they were betrayed by spirit. And they're like, why would the God, whatever this is, this being that we know is real, why would it allow this? So then they started separating from spirit, because they were like, why would spirit allow this? And so people were starting to experience their traumas and experience fears, their greatest fears and traumas, whether it was just imaginary or literally they were experiencing this. So souls that would come here would automatically start experiencing fears and traumas, literally or imaginary. Imaginary meaning that whatever was happening was triggering it in their mind, and they're reliving it in their mind when they're not supposed to. This planet was meant to be safe, right? It's like a rehabilitation center. So I remember actually incarnating on this planet to help. But the problem is that the people were very homogeneous. They were not willing to face their fears and traumas. So I remember incarnating on this planet to help. It was a mission. But the people would not move. There was no movement. This is something that people on the Akashic records were talking about. They were like, there was no winds. There was nobody that was like actually graduating from the planet. It was just like people were just experiencing their traumas over and over again, and there was no growth. So people were just getting more divided. The leaders were horrible because they were in that state too. They were afraid. It was like it turned from a very peaceful, loving, harmonious planet to every man for themselves, fear everywhere, evil everywhere. Very similar to Earth, because especially the leaders, they were very, very, very corrupt. It was every man for themselves. On the planet, there was a lot of power struggle. There was a lot of fear. There was a lot of survival state, and there was no wisdom accumulating, because people are just following these leaders blindly because they're afraid. They're like, we don't know what to do. Imagine these people that are already traumatized and experiencing distrust on the highest end go to this planet to feel trust and to experience time away from those evil things, and are just here experiencing it again. The planet turned into the opposite of what the Maldekian people needed and what the whole goal of the planet was, what the planet was for. I remember carting on the planet, and it was like I was trying to lead the horse to the water and make it drink, but I couldn't. They would all just run and run from it. I remember out of, say for example, 10,000 people that I was in their lives on the planet, only 3 I could essentially save. But the 3 I was getting off the planet when the destruction was happening. So people started knowing the destruction was going to happen, essentially, and that's why we were sent there. Beings were sent to incarnate on the planet or just come on the planet and start helping people to evolve, so then less people would perish. But there was no way of actually saving the people. It was just heal as many as you can so then they could get off the planet. But there was 0. Remember that Maldek was one of the Draconians' planet, and it was meant to heal the Draconian soul matrix and DNA bloodline, right? But it ended in destruction. It was supposed to be like Earth. It was one of the 3 quote-unquote Earth planets, they call it, that is supposed to be like Earth. So it was Maldek, Mars, and then Terra, which is Earth. What happened to those 2, they're not going to let happen to this Earth. It was like 2 trial runs, and then this planet is going to be successful. They're not going to let it destroy itself. You guys already know that. It was honestly pissing me off, because on the planet, I'm like, why don't these people just face their fears? Why don't they just take on challenge and advance themselves. But I remember they're not in that mode. We coming there, we were more advanced souls. We went through these things that they went through, and we were there to help them, but they didn't. They were at a spot that we were at millions of years ago, a long time ago, at the beginning of our soul journeys, where we went through hard challenges. We didn't have an escape planet. A lot of people tried to escape. A lot of us, though, didn't. We had to face it. That was the one big lesson we learned. We had to face it. As a Lyran, I'm like, why don't they just face it? But then I remember back in the day, we were in the same position, and we weren't thinking, oh, let's face it, let's take it head on. We was running from it. We thought, this is far away from the light, right? We got to get away from it. So I had to empathize with them, but the problem was they would not move. They were so traumatized. Anytime you brought up any form of challenge, they were like, no, 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 no. And so as soon as it came up, they were in fight or flight. And anytime any challenge would come, they would go into fight or flight. So there was no, it was not like Earth where people have discernment where they could look at leaders and be like, something's not right. Maybe we shouldn't follow them. Or where they look at like what's going on in their life and say, you know what? I'm going to use this to become stronger or whatnot. They were not thinking like that at all. Just the fact that every time I went to the planet, I felt like I know I'm going to experience trauma and fear. But I've been training for this. I've done this so much. Plus, going to the University of Melchizedek, you've trained heavily for the Earth-like planets, which is like Maldek, Mars, and Earth, or Terra. It was wild. Going there astrally, you know you're going to experience that. And what's even more wild is that I used to have dreams and visions of this planet in my, I would call it my imaginary world. And in this one part of my world, there was always this planet that looked like Maldek, but I didn't know what it was. And there was always these dragon beings on it. And there was always like fear, though. It was like it was a swampy planet, and there was always like fear lingering around. And like it felt like Minecraft, like you had to survive, and you knew that it was like every man for themselves, and other people that you meet, you know, you may not be able to necessarily trust them, and no matter what, they don't trust you. It was a whole thing. But I always, when I grew up, I thought, okay, maybe that was just like a dinosaur dragon game I played, or like some sort of dragon dinosaur game that was a planet like that. And then as I got here, I'm like, whoa, I always knew about Maldek. So it's all making sense now. It's crazy. And I have a poster I'll put up here that my friend bought me when we were in Costa Rica. And that planet, it looks like Maldek. But I never knew what my connection was. I was like, I know this planet, but I'm going to figure out what it means to me later on down the line. Now I know. I literally asked my guys, I'm like, oh, I need to find a Maldek poster. And they were like, you already have one, Cash. And I was like, where? And then my head turned, and then I saw this one, and I was like, whoa, that's what that is. But oh my God, it just all makes damn sense. The destruction happened because they were messing around with technology, nuclear technology, and they wanted to do something where they take energy from the sun and also fight each other with this technology, and they destroyed themselves. So there was a whole civil war on the planet, and they end up using their missiles and using technology that was connected, nuclear technology, something with the sun, but I'm not quite sure what it was. And then when I looked it up, they said the same thing. They're like, nuclear technology to fight each other, a civil war, and something where they said there was technology related to harnessing energy from the sun that was nuclear, but using it for war, and they end up blowing up themselves. But next planet I'm going to is Mars. I actually went there last night. I got a little tips of it. It's just very warlike. Like it's like a who's the biggest man type of thing. It's very warlike, and you know Mars is masculine energy, and so it was easy for people to slide into that toxic masculine energy, which is what happened. I learned a lot from Maldek, and we can learn a lot from Maldek. We're not going to let what happened to that planet happen here. And I think this is a big lesson for people to never run from challenge and never run from fear and what you are experiencing, because it's literally helping you. And the only way to get out of trauma is to go in the trauma. You have to dive into it, or else it's going to control you. And remember, they used fear. The planet was full of fear and like the greatest nightmares of everyone and trauma. So when you go there, if you want to go to Maldek and Astral, you can. But just be aware that you are going to experience hostile energies. And if anything, it's going to help you. It's like how we talked about going to the Astral Arena. You could go to Maldek and you're there like just to experience the planet and feel it out. But you know that you're going to experience some sort of hardship that reflects also your either traumas or just you're going to experience fear-based things. And you are going to live it out. Would I go to Maldek again? Yes. I have an attachment to Maldek. I have a love-hate relationship with that planet. And you guys notice in my memories, it's like all these planets that I really love, they always get destroyed. Earth is one of the exceptions. So I have a deep connection with Maldek. In galactic history, it feels like it was yesterday. But I remember getting off the planet and I was like rolling my eyes and I was so upset because I'm like, again, like it reminds me of my home planet being destroyed and seeing the people run from all negative experiences and struggle and hardship just like we did. Oh my God, it was too much like home. That's why I have a love-hate relationship with it, because I hate how the society was and what happened and the frequency of the collective consciousness and even their mentalities. I didn't like it, but the planet itself and the people that were there, I loved and have empathy for. Because of the frequency of the planet, that's exactly why Anunnaki came and why the Martians came and the Greys came and even more Draconians came, because it's like the frequency attracted all of them, whether some of the Anunnaki were there to help and give them technology and others were there to literally allow the continuation of what's going on. And some of the Greys and stuff and the Martians, you know, the Martians, they were already very warlike coming there. They're all aligned with that energy. Imagine just Earth, but in a large ass planet. And instead of humans, it's dragon hybrids and also red skin people and green skin people and like dark skin humanoids. Yeah, it's really interesting. I got to astral project to Mars 2 more nights. I was nervous after Maldek, but it's different energy. So I'm going to do that. I actually found it easier because it was very much what my soul is used to. My soul is very used to war and conflict. And so going to Mars, it was almost like easier than Maldek, because Maldek, it was just so much trauma everywhere and fear. And the people were not in a mode of like going out of their trauma. In Mars, the people were just very hostile, very warlike. And a lot of the souls that died in Maldek went to Mars. And they, of course, brought their struggles there, just added on to the warlike energy. And which is why I got destroyed. You already know the drill. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. We're going to do lots more like this. And next is Mars. So you guys are going to see what's up. And I'll see you there. Peace out.